Ladies and gentlemen, our referee has called a stop to this contest, declaring the winner by knockout and new MMA show! Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another exciting round of and new MMA show. I'm your host, Michael Hansen, and I'm a ring announcer, and I'm your ring announcer. And I'm joined this week, as I always am, by my two friends who bring MMA punditry up to new heights. Introducing to you first, from New York, Mark Priaulx. Say hi, buddy.
Hi, buddy. What's up, guys? I had quite a week in the comment section of our YouTube channel. Quite a few people, one spamming commenter in particular, are pretty pissed that I didn't blow Islam Makhachev quite enough for their liking. I did call him the best lightweight on the planet. I did say I don't know who could beat him at this point. And I did say he may have the belt for a long time. But that is apparently not enough blowing when it comes to Islam Makhachev. So, you know, I thought long and hard about it, about my many failures when it comes to Islam Makhachev. And I decided that these people are fucking ridiculous. And I'm ready to do another show. So that's that. And on a related but better note, I just want to give a quick shout out to my guy Prince Ali, who started off kind of hot, but then who I actually ended up having a good convo with back and forth, and who is now a friend of the show. So that's pretty cool. I love when that can happen. But yeah, a lot of comments coming through, even some good comments. I mean, there's a million comments this week. We love to see that. So keep them coming, good or bad, and I'll keep answering.
Absolutely. You guys could even call us casuals. It's okay. It doesn't hurt that bad.
I will say Mark is going to be the one who's going to respond to all of you extra ridiculous people, because I do not have the fucking patience for it. I just don't. Like, you have a real comment with some real takes, things that we can discuss. I'll probably hop on there. If I fucked up something crazy, if I said somebody's crazy name wrong or someplace I didn't say right or something like that, I'll also respond to those and take accountability for it. Yeah. But all this extra shit about us being clowns, this, that, and the third, I'm just not going to respond. I'll leave that to Mark. Mark is going to kill you with the novels that the man writes. I'm not doing it.
Real quick tangent about comments. My first and only real taste of the wrath of the comment section. I commented on an Ariel Helwani Instagram post.
Oh boy!
And I don't even remember the fighters that was the post. It was some like pretty unsportsmanlike ending to a fight, and I commented like, "Wow, how sportsmanlike," or some kind of slightly sarcastic, voicing a little bit of my disapproval with like, "That's kind of shitty." And oh my god, the fucking vitriol I got! People replying to my comment, and all of like threatening me, like actual threats to me in this fucking stupid fucking comment section. So that was like my first and last time commenting.
People are incredible.
Moving right along here.
Like we're forcing them to watch.
Yeah, right.
Oh, man,
it's all good. It's all good, man. Introducing to you next from Florida, the Sunshine State. He is the Nicaraguan nightmare, Omar Artola. What's new with you, man?
I didn't even realize we hadn't gotten past my part here. I'll tell you what's new. Wife and I celebrated our 2-year anniversary last week, and she's starting to do Muay Thai now.
Hey.
Took her there for our anniversary. No pretty restaurant, no lovely dinner, just pain and intense kicking for a couple of hours.
Love it.
It was fantastic, though. She's super good for somebody who's never really done it before. And I'm excited. We get to do this shit together.
I feel like we did talk about this last week, no?
We might have.
Maybe but I was saying how she had nice form, yeah.
I'm so excited about it, though. I'm giddy. I got to tell you, it's kind of hot watching her do shit. Like we clinched the other day. We were doing clinch work the other day, and she was eating some knees, throwing some knees.
I punched her dead in the face. It was pretty hot.
Totally aroused by the entire experience. So more of that.
That's great, man. That's awesome. Well, I have some exciting things on my horizon. In 2 weeks, I have Anthony Pettis Fighting Championship, my second show with them in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Before that, though, this weekend, I am taking my MC and hosting duties to new areas, and I am officiating a wedding for the first time.
Oh, sick.
Nice.
So, yeah, some friends
I
of my
remember
wife.
you told us about this, yeah.
Yeah, some friends of my wife are getting married down in Missouri, by the way, and they asked me to officiate. And I was like, I'm not like, I don't like when people are like dance monkey. I'm not about that. And people are like, you got to announce us like a ring announcer. And I'm like, it's your moment. I don't want to make it about me and like doing anything like that. So for the ceremony, it's going to be a legit ceremony. But they said for the reception, they do want me to introduce them like ring announcer style. And I was like, okay,
Yeah.
if you really want me to, I'll do it.
I almost wish I could get married again so I could have you bring me into the reception ring announcer
There
style.
you go.
Yeah.
Maybe at your 50th or something.
Yeah, there we go. Perfect. When you're
I saw-
the ring announcer for the UFC, it'll be a big deal.
Yeah, man. Let's do it.
Yeah.
I saw a video of a guy, of a couple, after having gotten married. They were rolling for the first time. He was a purple belt and she was, I think, a blue belt. Or he was a brown belt and she was a blue belt. And so they were rolling during the reception. And now it's got me thinking about...
Jeez.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. Now it's got me thinking maybe Mike should announce us and then
Yeah,
me and
man.
Francesca throw some fucking hands.
You just fight each other.
Just fucking throw down for 3 minutes. It'd be great.
And he's knocked her out. We're going to shut it down for the night. Thanks for coming.
All right, boys, let's get this train rolling, folks. Episode 67 and new MMA show. We're going to start off, as we always do, with our first segment on the marquee. We're going to talk about all the fights from this past weekend's UFC Fight Night, Kattar versus Allen at the UFC Apex. We are going to get an update on Mark's very own rankings system, the Priaulx Rankings. We're going to dive in the headlines with Omar inside the MMA Sphere. And then we're going to look ahead to this weekend, previewing UFC Fight Night, Rodriguez versus Lemos going down also at the UFC Apex. Back-to-back weekends, we get fight nights. And then we might end with a little bit of trivia. So, with that being said, before we get into any of the fight talk, gentlemen, let us first thank our audience. If you guys are watching this on YouTube right now, if you haven't done so, and if you like what you've been watching, most of you, go ahead and subscribe to our channel. There's that little red bell icon. Go ahead and hit that so that you will get notified anytime we publish new content to this channel and you can watch. Of course, it still holds true. Our favorite form of engagement is comments. Comments down in the comment section on any of our posts or clips. We love to engage with you guys, as we've already established in this episode. Positive or negative comments, praises or criticisms. We're here for all of it. We love engaging thoughtfully down in the comments, so we love that. If you want audio only, we got you there. Find us wherever you get your podcasts. And, of course, find us and connect with us on social media. You can find us on all the socials at @andnew_MMA show in all the places. Okay. With that out of the way, let's get into this, man. This week, the name on the marquee has got to be Almighty Arnold Allen, who this past weekend defeated Calvin Kattar by TKO via knee injury. The official time coming at only 8 seconds into round number 2. Or, excuse me, the 8-second mark of round number 2. Tough way to end the fight with Kattar pretty much blowing out his knee. Mark, let me throw it over to you first. What were your impressions of the performances of both these men in the first round, and then, of course, going into the second, and how it ended?
Yeah, so this sucked. This feels like it's happening too often this year in MMA. I feel like more than we are accustomed to. These type of main event, co-main event, big deal fights are ending in injury like this. So not great, but the first round was solid. It looked pretty much exactly how I thought it would, to be honest. Very competitive exchanges. Both men landing and finding openings for shots. A couple of bursts for Allen, as he's prone to do. Kattar calm under the fire. Kattar starting to find the timing with his hands a little bit as the fight went on. Allen responding with some of the bigger, wider punches. You know, it's kind of what I thought we'd see. I thought Allen might be edging early. Kattar would come back later in the fight. But then 30 seconds left in round one. Kattar jumps. He gets pulled backwards a bit by Allen as Allen evades what looked like it was a knee attempt. And Kattar lands awkwardly on the right leg, and that's that. I mean, credit to him. He stayed in the fight. He didn't let the Allen swarm or the choke get him out of there. But Allen knew, and he knew all he needed was one more shot that impacted that knee, and he got it right away to start round two. Kicks the left calf. Kattar has to brace on the right leg, and the right leg says, nope, we can't do that. And that's all she wrote. So that sucked. Allen gets the win. It's a big win in name. Unfortunately, as he said, it's not really the statement that he was looking to make in terms of a title claim. But he gets it done. Obviously, it's a tough break for Kattar. And Allen said it, but, man, what a weird place the top of featherweight is right now. I mean, the three guys with a chance to maybe grab a title shot are Yair, who just won due to an injury over Ortega, Allen, who just won due to this injury, and Emmett, who just won a decision that many people thought he didn't win. So you usually don't see, like, all three of the top contenders in a division kind of coming off non-statement results, but that's where we're at in featherweight, so it's a little weird up at the top right now. So we'll see how that shakes out.
Kattar said what? He said, like, featherweight shit right now?
Allen, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah, he said it's shit.
I think he meant
I think he meant more of like it's a shit show, not like it's a shitty division.
He meant exactly that. He was talking about how these fights keep ending weird because he mentioned that Yair fight and
it muddies everything up.
Yeah,
man. Omar, let's bring you in here, buddy. What were your thoughts in the way that fight finished, and your impressions of the performances of these featherweights early on in the first round?
So, to be honest, I thought Allen looked fantastic. I thought he was pushing the pace. I thought he had a lot of power in his hooks. We were joking afterwards. I think Allen was talking about how he messed up his hand. And I was joking about how I wonder how he doesn't break his hand every fight. The way he
pretty
throws.
much does. Every single fight he hurts his hand.
The way he throws and the consistency at that strength that he throws is crazy. And, you know, those little gloves that he has at the end of the day, they're not really protecting much. I think if anything, it's really to stop cuts from happening as easily than you do when you have bare knuckle. But it doesn't really stop much of anything in there as far as impact is concerned. So Allen did what he needed to do, man. I thought it was a beautiful performance. I think it sucked, obviously, the way it happened. Like Mark said, he goes, Kattar goes for a flying knee. Kattar goes for a flying knee. And, Allen quarter turns out, and I think Kattar tried to follow him while he was midair and turned his body in a different direction than what his momentum was going. And so his knee, had he kept going forward, he would have been fine. But his knee at that point had turned because he wanted to go left to where Allen was. And the forward momentum basically made it's almost like if your car is going forward and all of a sudden it's sideways, that bitch is going to flip and fly everywhere. It's kind of what happens to Kattar's knee. I want to call him Kattar so bad. But yeah, that's what happened to Kattar's knee. And the images, the video, if you've seen it, is gross.
That video is not so bad. It's the end. It's the round two.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
That one is even worse. Yes,
it's such a gruesome, non-gruesome injury.
Because you know what it is, and you see it pop in.
You see the legs just kind of twitch, and you know what's happening.
Feel it. Yep.
Okay, so Arnold Allen, only 28 years old, and he has climbed to the upper echelon of 145-pound division in the UFC. He's extended his winning streak to 12 wins in a row now, and he has stayed undefeated under the UFC banner. He's now 10-0 in the UFC. Mark, put on that matchmaker hat. What would you do with Arnold Allen next at 145 pounds?
I think that you just look at those three guys that I just mentioned, Allen, Yair, and Josh Emmett. See who's healthy, see who's ready to fight, and whatever two are that answer, you put them in a cage, especially with Volk now headed up to challenge at lightweight for the time being. I think you get this moving, you put two of those guys in a cage, that way you have a clear contender eventually waiting for Volk, and then whoever is the odd man out, when he's ready, he can fight the winner of this upcoming Bryce Mitchell and Ilia Topuria fight, I would say, especially if it's Bryce, because Bryce is kind of right there as well.
Omar, any other names that you would most want to see Arnold Allen match up with next at 145?
I mean, Mark kind of has the right idea. Obviously, I want to see him matched up with all of these guys to see really where he stands. I thought he looked good against Kattar, but, you know, what we saw was the very beginning of a fight that didn't really go very far after a certain point. So, you know, you can take away what you can from that fight, but it's not the full picture. So there's still questions I think that need to be answered. I think he can do it. I do think that he can become champion. I think he's very, very good. Beating Volkanovski is obviously a tall order, but I think he's up to the task as far as making it competitive and me not just thinking that Volkanovski's going to run him over. But, you know, him against Josh Emmett is a fantastic stylistic matchup. I think they're very, very similar in their approach to the game. I just think Allen is a little bit better at it. Yair would be a fun fight to see Yair having to use his movement to counter Allen's power and his forward pressure. Max Holloway would also be very interesting to see technique versus the power of Allen, to see if Allen could potentially work his way up to that technique and counter it and use it to his advantage, because Max Holloway is very hittable if you can find him. So it would be interesting to see if Allen can live up to any of those expectations. And I think any one of those three I think would be fantastic, especially while Volkanovski is off, because I think all three of those guys are healthy, right? Max looks like he's good. Yair I haven't heard anything about, but I would imagine he's okay.
Yeah, I haven't heard a peep on Yair or Emmett in a while, which is why I kind of threw it out there that, like, and then plus Allen said he hurt his hand, so it's like I'm just not sure where all these guys are at in terms of when they can fight.
Yeah.
Real quick, I love what you just said about Allen. I think you said something like there are still questions that need to be answered, and I feel like that sentiment is expressed way more often about guys who are undefeated or like nearly undefeated, like Allen is. He's 19-1, and I just think that's always interesting. It's like a guy who's so good that he's gotten to like 19-1 as a pro, and that sentiment is expressed about them. Like there's still some question marks. It's almost like when a guy is so good and has so few losses, there are more question marks. So you're wondering where his boundaries are.
Yeah,
good point. It's funny.
Thank you. Let's talk real quick about Calvin Kattar. So he's 34 years old, and he has now lost 2 in a row. This is actually the first time in his career that he's lost back-to-back fights. And now he also has lost 3 of his last 4. Omar, first of all, the question is, what do you think the timeline of this knee injury is? And if so, where would you want to see him go next at featherweight?
I probably would imagine at this point we won't see him until late next year at the earliest. If it's a full tear, he's probably going to need at least 6 months to a year, depending on how he chooses to repair it. I believe, if I remember the Dom stuff correctly, if he uses one of those cadaver ligaments, depending on, I don't know what the injury is specifically. I don't know what blew in his knee, but I'm assuming it's one of the ligaments in his knee. So if he uses a cadaver one, then I think if it takes right, it's 6 months. If it doesn't take right, then it's even longer than that, and that's what fucked up Dom's timeline, years ago. If he uses one of his, I forgot how they do it, but if he uses one of his own body parts to replace the ligament, then I think that takes about a year or so to repair. But there's a better chance that it heals properly, it stays strong, and it doesn't fuck up. So if he doesn't want to rush it, that's probably the way he would want to go to get that repaired, and then we probably won't see him till maybe mid-2024, early 2024. So I'd probably count him out for 2023 if the injury is really bad, which seemed to be.
Yeah. Mark, if there was no knee injury, if it was just sort of a regular TKO loss, where would you go next with Kattar if you were the matchmaker?
That's a funny question. I don't know. I agree we probably don't see him for like at least a year here. If it was ever something that's more minor than we realize, and maybe him and Ortega ended up on similar timelines, you could maybe throw them in there with each other. I'm sure they'd make for an entertaining scrap. But yeah, I don't know that it makes sense to be putting him in there with guys right now, because it does feel like it's going to be a minute.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Even Yair is at the middle point, I think, of this healing process, because he got surgery not long after he was in that fight with Yair.
Ortega,
yeah. Yeah, so I've seen him, working out and doing stuff with his shoulders strapped up.
Right.
So it looks like he's still in the middle of it, so we might not see him for quite some time, too.
Yeah, I'm imagining maybe like summer for him, something like that. But I don't really know.
Yeah.
Well, injury or not, with that performance, Arnold Allen has pretty much stamped his ticket to the elite at featherweight. And congrats to him. For now, let's move on to the co-main event of UFC Fight Night, Kattar versus Allen. It went down in the welterweight division, and Max Griffin defeated Tim Means by a split decision, earning a 29-28 and 30-27 on the scorecards. Tim Means getting his own 29-28. Omar, let me start with you this time. What was your impression of the performance of Max Griffin, as well as the grittiness of Tim Means?
Tim Means was Tim Means in that octagon, but I was really impressed with Max Griffin. I thought he actually came correct in that fight. Yeah, his pressure was fantastic. His striking was really good. I thought his ability to control the fight, I thought was pretty solid. I was surprised a little bit with the split decision. I did not have Tim Means winning by any point. I think there are a lot of moments where like I can understand it. I didn't really get this one too much. I thought Max Griffin was pretty handily in the way he took care of that fight. So credit to him. I definitely didn't think he would be able to do that to Tim Means. I don't know if I've ever really been a super big Max Griffin fan. That might have been the reason why, but it was a fantastic fight. I was really impressed.
Mark, what was your impression of Max Griffin getting it done over the veteran Tim Means?
Yeah, this was a quality scrap. I mean, as you would expect from these two fighters, but Griffin looked great early. I thought he did a fantastic job of adjusting to fight a southpaw. He was circling hard left early. Dom actually pointed it out on the broadcast, but he was consistently getting to the outside on Means and landing there. Obviously, he was able to drop Means in round one with a big shot. But to Means' credit, he did a great job to survive it, to get back to his feet. And on the feet, as we expected, I think it was the speed of Max that was a real key. He was first a lot. Tim Means kind of got stuck behind a bit in the exchanges. He would try to corral Max and cut him off, but Max's footwork was on point all fight. He kept kind of escaping Means as he was trying to close it. But Means is a beast, man, and we knew this. You can't keep that guy down. You can't keep him off you. He'll never accept defeat in there, and he was not going away. But Max did well. He, like I said, he looked really good early in the striking, but then he broke his hand, we learned after the fight, which kind of makes sense why it seemed like the striking fell off a little bit midway through, but he went to the wrestling. He mixed it up. He showed the complete game, and he got himself out of there with a win. So he is on his way up right now for sure. I would say, despite the loss in his last fight to Magny, which was a very close fight, I would say Max Griffin is absolutely in the best form of his career thus far over his last handful of fights here.
Yeah, what's interesting is that Tim Means, at the age of 38, he really seems the veteran in this matchup. But let's not forget, Max Griffin is actually 36, which is interesting because Max Griffin does feel like he is coming into his best form, like you said, and he seems like a younger guy who's on the rise, and he is on the rise, and he's climbing up the welterweight rankings. That being said, Omar, looking at those rankings, Max Griffin, like I said, 36-year-old, he's a California native. He improves now to 19-9 as a pro. After Neil Magny snapped his 3-fight win streak by edging out a split decision, Griffin gets back in the win column with his own split decision, this time tilting in his favor over Tim Means. What's next for Max Griffin at welterweight?
So, I think at this point, if you're trying to promote Max Griffin, if you're trying to, use him to your advantage as a promoter, you'd want to put him in the best position to make a highlight statement. Because at this point, the wins he's got, even the loss against Magny, like Mark said, there was still some quality in that performance, but he still hasn't gotten recently something to really catapult him to something better. I think a fight against Chaos Williams would be a fantastic opportunity. I don't think either one of those guys are going to let it go to decision. I say that wholeheartedly, knowing that Chaos Williams has had a couple decisions in his last few fights, but that fight just seems tailor-made for violence and somebody to get a knockout. And if Griffin's able to do it, I think that can move him pretty heftily up the ladder.
Mark, agree, disagree?
Fight.
Is it really? Wow.
Literally my exact fight. I thought Omar was setting up something else when he was talking in the beginning, and then, surprised me. But yeah, I think they're at really similar points. I think they're both dangerous, but are two different styles of dangerous in terms of their striking. And I think that that'd be a fun one, and I think that they're a good test for each other. So yeah, I think that's a great match.
Yeah.
That's sick, man. I love it. I love it when we agree on this show. It's so nice. Let's see. How old is Chaos Williams? He's 28. 28. So he is definitely entering his athletic prime.
Much younger, yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Let's move on. Recapping.
Can I match up means real fast?
Oh, yes. Oh, sure.
I will go with old guy versus old guy for Tim Means. I think him and Francisco Trinaldo in a battle of veterans coming off losses could be a worthwhile scrap.
Very nice. Any other names?
No, I hadn't really thought about anything for Tim Means.
What about Robbie?
Lawler?
Yeah, I mean that's kind of old guy versus old guy.
So I thought about it, but then I remembered. I was like, "Wait, isn't Robbie booked?" And he's fighting Santiago Ponzinibbio. Like he got another kind of big opportunity, which I almost forgot about. If he loses to Pons, then we probably, I think, get into the Tim Means type of fights. Okay. But yeah, they kind of put him in a big one again.
Yeah, for sure. That's going to be a great fight.
I like the Trinaldo one though. It's a good fight.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I would like that fight.
You know, if we're going to do one other one just for the sake of doing another one, a Matt Brown fight. Did they fight before?
Have they fought? That'd be a great. I feel like they must have, right?
That's kind of where I'm at right now. Is they must have fought at this point.
I kind of feel like Matt Brown beat him. I feel like
2015, dude.
They did.
Oh, we could do that again.
Yeah, he beat him. Yeah.
We could do that again.
I thought Matt Brown retired.
No, he's still out there.
He's still there. He's still in the rankings.
He still is, yeah. That's interesting. How did he beat him?
Guillotine, first round.
Guillotine. Oh, wow. God, Matt Brown's so good.
2015, though, what is that, 7 years ago? We could do that again.
Lifetime.
I guess eight years by the time we get to that point.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, moving on. A light heavyweight bout that opened the main card of this UFC fight night. Khalil Rountree Jr. defeated Dustin Jacoby by a split decision once again. 29-28 on two scorecards. Jacoby getting his own 29-28. Mark, what was your impression of my guy, Khalil Rountree, getting the dub?
I loved watching this fight. This was exactly what I hoped that it would be. I love getting to see two strikers who are at that high of a level trying to out-chess each other in there, and this was exactly that. This thing was tight throughout. Round one, I really think, was a toss-up.
Thank you.
Live, I wasn't sure. Gun to my head on the rewatch, I still was almost dead even. If I had to make a call, I think I might edge it for Jacoby on the volume. But it's a close round, inarguably. Round two was the only clear round of the fight. I thought that was clearly a Jacoby round.
Yes.
He upped the pace. He focused on the smaller shots. In the beginning, they were kind of exchanging more. In that round, he did what I expected him to do, which was more focus on that volume, pick away at Khalil, force Khalil to have to land a big shot to change the fight. And he was just tapping away, adding up, and Jacoby did a really good job to control round two. Kept Khalil off balance. Toward the end of that round is when Khalil kind of looked like he was starting to figure out how to deal with that volume attack coming at him. And then he did better in round three, which again was very close. However, I still think I edged round three to Jacoby. So they were real close rounds. There were big shots from Khalil in that round. I just thought he still kind of got outlanded too much. The calf kicks from Jacoby were a big factor. And he was just landing a lot. So it's a tough loss for Jacoby. But I'm not going to call it a robbery because I think an argument exists for scoring round 1 and 3 for Khalil because I thought they were both that close of rounds. So I would have given it to Jacoby. I don't hate Khalil getting the decision in that fight. He dug deep. He landed some big shots to stick in the judges' minds, and he stole it. So he marches on. The man finally breaks through with a big win.
Dude, you stole my thunder. I was just about to make a joke and say, so you're saying that you think Jacoby was robbed? Because we've been over so many times, what a robbery is and is not. Yes. Omar, who do you think won the fight?
So, this was also a hill I was not going to die on. I will also say I spent a lot more time entertained by the quality of the Muay Thai in this fight than I think I was really sitting down trying to score the fight. I loved this fight, though. From a technical standpoint, I was rewinding the fight because there were things that I was looking at that were like, man, I'm taking this. I'm taking this. I'm taking this, too, for myself. There's one just that I can't get out of my head at all that was so sick was Khalil was kicked the leg of Jacoby, kind of set up a kick leg, and then switched his stance. So essentially faked the leg kick, switched his stance to come in and threw a hook instead of a kick. And it landed beautifully. And it just, setting things up like that, that's the stuff that I love watching people figure that stuff out and play that game. Long story short, I edged it out to Khalil, more so for the first round. I thought the third round for me was a little bit clearer for Khalil than it was for Jacoby personally. But the first round I thought was a toss-up. If you told me Jacoby won the first round, I'm not going to argue with you. Now, the thing that gets me messed up is when I see fights like this, in my head I'm like, okay, I wonder how people saw it. And if I go to MMA decisions, there are, I don't know how many, 300 plus scorecards. 90% of these people have Jacoby winning the first round. That makes me feel like a crazy person. Like that we didn't watch the same fight. But regardless, I'm okay with the Khalil Rountree win. I would have been okay with a Jacoby win. I thought it was a very close fight. Like Mark said, I thought 1 and 3 were very close. 2 was a very clear win. I thought 3 was a bit clearer than 1 as far as who won that round, and I thought Khalil won that round. But 1 is really the disputing factor here, and I personally had Khalil winning. The one thing I will say is I don't like from Khalil are the winging hooks. The man needs to tighten it up. He wastes a lot of energy. You could see he was borderline gassed by the middle of the second round because of all the wasted energy that he has throwing hooks and shots that don't land, that are literally taking him off balance because of how hard he's throwing them and not landing them. I think if he tightens that part of his game up, he's going to be a disgusting individual to try to beat. Other than that, though, I love the way the kid fights. I think he's super exciting, and Jacoby as well.
Yeah, man. Well, Rountree, the 32-year-old California native, has now won 3 straight, improving his pro record to 11-5 with 1 no contest. Mark, exciting times for Khalil Rountree. If you were the matchmaker of the UFC, who would you match him up against next?
So I brought this up last week, and I'm going to stick with it. I'm Googling the age of Khalil because I was curious. He's 32.
He's 32, yeah.
Sorry, did you say that already?
Just said that.
But yeah, I said it last week. I'm going to stick with it. Despite the, arguably controversial result, I'm going to give him Volkan Ozdemir. I think that Khalil has had a career of kind of blowing opportunities right after looking really good, and he's kind of finally on his best run right now. He just got a big win, and I think it's time to say, you know what? Let's put him in there with a top 10 guy and see what happens. And, hey, if he gets turned back, then Khalil's probably not ever going to really break through. But maybe he does, and I think he's earned that chance.
Ooh, poor Volkan, man. It's a good fight. That's a great fight. Omar, what do you think? Any other names that you throw out there for Rountree's next opponent?
I do. I just see he did. So I want yes, I do. And I thought I had this in my head. I know it hasn't been super long, but I feel like the trajectories of their careers have taken such a different turn, and yet one is still ranked higher above the other. Although I think their trajectories are not going in the same direction. So I want to see the rematch between Rountree and Ion Cutelaba. I think this is a perfect time to have it. I think Ion is in a slump right now. And I think this is a perfect time for Khalil to capitalize on his momentum.
How did that fight end?
Khalil got knocked out by elbow.
Yep. Yeah, that one sucked.
Yeah. Do we want to match up and talk about Mr. Jacoby?
Yeah, I'll give him one. I will put him across from Jimmy Crute. He did it this way. Jacoby doesn't fall far off of an arguable loss and gets back in there with Crute, who's well ranked as well. Gives one of them a chance to be right back in the mix.
Yeah, I mean at this point, Jacoby, he's 34. His record's 18-6, which is nice. And this loss snapped a 4-fight win streak for him, and it was his first loss in the UFC, and his first loss since 2015, which came against John Salter under the Bellator banner. So impressive stuff from Jacoby overall, and pretty much anybody he matches up with next, I would expect him to get back in the win column very soon because he's a pretty talented light heavyweight. Omar, any other names?
Agreed.
For
It is his second run in the UFC, just to clarify
right.
that. He has lost on his prior UFC stint.
Thank you.
For Jacoby, I was going to give him Alonzo Menefield. I think that'd be an interesting matchup. A little bit different than the fight I think we saw this past weekend, as far as two guys willing to stang and bang for 3 rounds without having to worry about the other guy taking you down or anything. But Menefield's hands have just looked really good as of late, and it'd be an interesting test to see where he's at.
Yeah, man. Love it. Love it. All right, boys. Let us throw the rest of these fights from UFC Fight Night, Kattar versus Allen, into our lightning round. If you don't know, folks, the lightning round is the time of the show in which I challenge Mark and Omar to give us their lightningest takes. Quick takes. Here we go. In the heavyweight division, Waldo Cortez Acosta defeated Jared Vanderaa by unanimous decision. Mark, go first.
Yeah, this one was a decent scrap. I'm honestly not sure who should have won this fight. I maybe did lean towards Cortez Acosta, and I'm not about to go back and rewatch a low-level heavyweight fight, so it is what it is. But it was really his boxing against Vanderea's leg kicks, and Cortez Acosta managed to come out on top. So nice debut win for him, and he'll take it, and he stays undefeated.
Yeah, man. Omar?
It was hard for me to take that fight seriously past a certain point because Acosta kept roaring during the fight. It reminded me, and I might be aging myself. I've been doing this a lot lately. But if you've ever watched the movie Bedazzled, there's a part where Brendan Fraser's character turns into an NBA star, and he can't remember for the life of him what the number is to put into the pager to go back to being his normal self. And every time he puts in the wrong number, he's like, that's literally what Acosta was doing as he was getting leg kicked in that fight. So,
dude, that is a deep cut Brendan Fraser movie, which I loved, by the way.
Thank you. That Bedazzled movie is legendary. Don't sleep on it. That is prime Brendan Fraser. We're not going to do this.
We'll
save
Brendan
that for another
Fraser?
time.
Yes, you're right. I fucking loved Brendan Fraser.
I could do this all day. Look, we're not going to do this right now. Brendan Fraser is legendary. The
Let's
Mummy
go.
is all time.
The Mummy.
The Mummy's all time classic. Let's go.
It
it's
is.
Halloween
Right.
season,
Really
just
is.
right at the end.
Really
All
is.
right.
Yeah, baby.
We won't do any more of it. But
Okay,
yeah, good fight.
In the middleweight division, Trayshawn Gore defeats Josh Fremd by submission murder attempt. That was hard to watch. It really was for me. Omar, go first.
Yeah, dude, there was a point where I wasn't sure if his neck was supposed to bend that way. The very end of that fight was really terrifying. And the way that choke was sunk in and how deep it was and the amount of strength that went into preventing this man from spinning or getting out of it at all was absolutely terrifying. But definitely the performance Trayshawn Gore needed, so good on him.
Mark?
That was one of the most violent guillotines you will ever see in your life. You hear people say sometimes, like, oh, he was ripping his head off. Like, he legitimately looked like he was going to take Fremd's head off. Yeah. It was violent. But, yeah, as Omar said, that is a massive win for Trayshawn Gore. I'm sure he saved his job with it. He showed some new wrinkles to the game with the wrestling and the grappling, and obviously gets a huge win.
All right, the fight that headlined the prelims for this UFC Fight Night. In the middleweight division, Roman Dolidze added another stop to the Phil Hawes hype train, finishing him by knockout 409 of round number 1. Mark, take it.
Yeah, so this was the one that I got wrong on this card. Phil Hawes obviously had his leg torn up, and to his credit, he did try to gut through it. I couldn't believe it when he stood up and it looked like he was toast, and then he was just like, nah, I'm still fighting. Like, let's do this. I was like, oh, shit. But he couldn't last much longer, and he ended up getting put down and out badly. But credit to Roman, because I think the takeaway from this fight is that being on top of that guy is a dangerous place to be. Between the nasty elbows from the bottom, the armbar attempt, the vicious leg lock, like, that man looked absolutely frightening from the bottom. And if he's going to become a striker now as well, to go with the offensive wrestling that he's already shown, he could be a problem in this division. So that's a big win for him, and he'll be a name to watch.
Omar.
I'm pretty sure your leg's not supposed to bend that way to any degree. That the way that Roman was able to bend Hawes' leg was gross. And as soon as he started doing it, I was wincing the entire time, waiting for something to happen. And there it went. It popped. It was gross, and the one real takeaway that I feel like Roman's going to get this feedback from his coaches is, don't do that shit again. Hold on to that leg. Because the fact is, that was a submission that he got, that he let go of, because Phil Hawes didn't scream and didn't tap. Had he just held on to it and kept, working the leg, he would have 100% tapped to that. I think that was probably his biggest issue, especially after he got up. Roman's looking at the referee like, are you going to do something about this? Or am I supposed to just keep beating the shit out of him? All of those moments, I'm in my head. I'm like, bro, go forward. What are you doing? And then it got even wilder, seeing Hawes almost fight back at that point. And like, is he really going to turn the tide here? Is this really going to happen with one knee? It got really suspenseful there at the end. And then the Elites brought us back to reality by knocking the holy shit out of Phil Hawes.
Did. I felt bad.
Yeah. But what a wild fight, man. And a real statement from Deletes. So,
man, imagine being Phil Hawes and having to go home so beat up, like with 3 different injuries.
Dude, his knee is destroyed.
And he got with a destroyed knee, and he got knocked out.
Yeah, and a concussion and whatever else. Hopefully Phil Hawes
take some time off, Phil Hawes, man. He'll be back though. Phil Hawes is very talented middleweight. All right, in the heavyweight division, Marcos Rogerio de Lima defeated Andrei Arlovski by submission via rear naked choke in the very first round. Omar, take it.
Yeah, like I said last week, I don't think I picked Arlovski for this one if I remember right. De Lima's a problem. Yeah, De Lima's a problem. I don't think I had him winning by submission, but it was an opportunity for him. He was in an opportunity for him to get a submission, and he worked it. I thought the power would be the biggest difference, and the power, at the very minimum, knocked Arlovski off balance and got him down to the ground so that De Lima could work from there. It was a little interesting because he had a neck crank for a little bit, and in my head, I'm like, I don't think Arlovski was looking for a way out. He doesn't seem like the type. But there was a moment where it seemed like he let De Lima get his arm under his chin and just sort of left it there. And De Lima was like, oh, look, it's under the chin, and just took it. But there was a little bit of, did you give him that position, Arlovski? Yeah, it was a little weird. I decided, no, that can't be right. He just fucked up. But there were moments.
Mark?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. But yeah, I mean, first off, so De Lima just walked right through Andrei Arlovski. He looked so big, so powerful, put Andrei down, jumped right on him, didn't give him a break. And yeah, it almost looked like Andrei was just like, man, get me the fuck out of here. Get this guy off me. Like, it was weird. It was a little weird. But massive statement for Marcos Rogerio de Lima.
Yeah.
Man, Arlovski, man, I just want to see that guy retire at this point. He's 43 years old. What is he doing?
He's making bank, baby, is what he's doing.
So. And winning is what he's been doing.
He has been.
And he hasn't taken nearly as much damage as he did in the middle of it. The middle of his career is really where the the question marks were like, dude, what are you doing?
Central, yeah.
He hasn't been as exciting, I will say that, but he's been winning and collecting paychecks, baby. That's what he's doing.
Yeah, that's true. All right. In the middleweight division, Junyan Park, defeated Joseph Holmes by submission via rear naked choke in the second round. Mark, take it.
Yeah, Park clearly had an advantage on the mat here, and he knew it. He kept looking for the takedown, and that's what makes him good, is that he can fight everywhere. He was at a big length disadvantage in this one, so he said, all right, we're going to do this with the grappling, and he did. And Holmes was competitive in the grappling for a bit, but Park really just wore him down, frustrated him, caused him to make some mistakes, and then found his opening and snatched it up. So a nice win for the Iron Turtle.
Love that nickname. Omar, take it.
Yeah, I was actually really impressed with Park's wrestling in this one. I think I was expecting more from Ugly Man in this fight, as far as what he brings to the table. He has a little bit of tenacity in there. You could see when he had the opportunity, he wanted to take his back, wanted to get his hooks in, wanted to try his submission attempt. But I think he was just outclassed at the end of the day. I just think a lot of the technique was just too much from him. Too much for him, I should say. It was a great fight from Park. Definitely a statement that he deserves somebody, higher ranked at this point, and we'll see what's next for him.
All right. In the featherweight division, Steve Garcia defeated Chase Hooper by TKO in the very first round. Omar, take it first.
Bro, this one was fucked up. This was like watching somebody get jumped outside of a college. This was so bad. Like the real differential in the quality of striking between the two was absolutely gross. It almost felt like a mismatch to me, to be really honest with you. And that's absolutely understanding that Steve Garcia, I think that was his debut, if I'm not mistaken. Second fight, and Chase.
More than that.
Is it more than that? Because Chase Hooper now has been in the UFC for quite some time.
It was Steve Garcia's featherweight debut, but he had 3 fights at lightweight.
Lightweight, yeah.
I don't remember ever seeing this kid. Maybe I have, and it never stuck in my head. I'm not sure. But I can tell you right now, what he did to Chase Hooper, anywhere other than inside of the octagon, he'd be in fucking jail. Like, he hit him with some disgusting hooks. Chase's whole face became a different color by the end of that fight. You could see the progression in the color change in his face. It was messed up. It seemed like a real abusive thing to do to that kid. I don't know. I don't know if that's one of those fights where you're like, I don't know if the UFC is really where you should be right now.
Yeah, I know what you mean, because that happened to be the one fight that my 5-year-old walked in for to see me watching. And he's like, oh, Dad, you're watching fights? Like, which guy are you rooting for? And then the fight started, and that's what happened. And I was like, good. This is good. I'm glad that he came in here to just watch a guy get murdered. But, yeah, I thought maybe Chase Hooper had moved past getting bum rushed on the feet like that. It had seemed like maybe we had moved past that. But I guess not, because he got caught flush numerous times. He wouldn't quit, or at least he tried not to quit, but he could not see that left coming, and it just put him down again and again and again and again. So great job by Steve Garcia to come out that aggressive and not even consider going down and playing around on the ground with Chase Hooper when he knocked him down, just making him get back up, put him down again, and gets a big win.
Smart. Steve Garcia has nice hands.
Yeah, that boxing is solid as shit.
He also went 5-2 in Bellator in pretty much the beginning of his career, which not many people are aware of. And of his 13 victories, 10 of them are knockouts. So
why is this kid just coming? Why are we just hearing about this kid?
Yeah, I know.
So he's only 2-2 in the UFC. He dropped his debut to Luis Pena, who did have some talent. Then he won against Charlie Ontiveros, who frankly stinks. But then he lost his next fight. He got knocked out by Mahashat, however you say that guy's name.
Yeah.
Yeah, he got knocked out right away in the first round.
Oh, so
he's doing a little up and down.
Interesting.
I do like his hands, so I look forward to his next outing for sure. Okay, let's finish this up. In the flyweight division, Cody Durden defeated Carlos Mota by unanimous decision, 30-27, 29-28, 29-28. Omar, take it.
Cody Durden is just a wet blanket. He smothered Mota from beginning to end. Mota, I think, tried to play the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu game a little too much in that fight. And Durden took advantage of it. Didn't give him a chance to do anything as far as setup was concerned, and just drowned him on the ground for 3 rounds.
Mark.
Yeah, Mota is supposed to be an explosive guy, but Cody Durden did his job, and he didn't allow him to show that. He kept him grounded for most of that fight. Mota couldn't stop the takedowns. He was maybe a little too comfortable being on the ground at times, and Durden made him pay for it, so well done by him.
Nice. Our last one, boys. At a catch weight of 139.5 pounds, Christian Rodriguez defeated Joshua Weems by submission via anaconda choke in the very first round. Mark, go first.
This was a fun scrap early. They were going back and forth, but Rodriguez did a beautiful job when he got taken down of threatening that guillotine and forcing the arm through to get that anaconda choke in place. So a real nice transition into that submission for him, and Weems was just caught. So a nice win for Rodriguez to get his first W in the UFC.
Omar, take us home.
Yeah, Weems actually hit a beautiful outside trip to get Rodriguez on the ground in the first place. It was very impressive, to be honest. Almost doubled Rodriguez backwards in order to get him down to the ground with a lot of leverage. Rodriguez, though, had beautiful butterfly guard, was able to use those hips, flip him over, catch the anaconda choke, and put him right out. It was beautiful technique. I thought Weems could have probably done a little bit more to fight the anaconda choke. It didn't look like he was doing much to try to release the pressure that was on him, as far as moving counter, opposite of the way that you're, if you guys are basically 12 and 6 o'clock in an anaconda choke, you kind of want to go clockwise away from the choke. And if you're holding onto the choke, you want to go clockwise towards your opponent. So there wasn't really much adversity from Joshua Weems in that position, and I think Rodriguez didn't have to do much to keep it synced in. You'll even see a lot of times people trying to grab onto the legs with their legs in order to keep their opponent from trying to, clockwise move out of the position. But none of that was really necessary here, and I thought it was pretty easy for Rodriguez to get that done.
All right, boys, that does it for our lightning round this week. And now to put a bow on UFC Fight Night, Kattar versus Allen, let's find out who rose and fell in Mark's very own ranking system that he meticulously maintains on a pretty much weekly basis because he is that much of a fucking casual. What's up with the rankings, Mark, after this fight night?
All right, we got a few significant movers this week. 3 risers and 2 fallers. We'll do the risers first. Working from the top of the card, the first one, we have Max Griffin. He moves from number 40 in my welterweight rankings up to number 28. So a nice move for him. He has been up at this level before, back in the days when he beat Mike Perry. He was kind of in this, top 25-ish area. I mean, Max Griffin's been around for a minute. That was his 14th fight in the UFC this weekend, so he's been around. But he had taken a couple losses, kind of fallen down, and the man's working his way back up now, so he's getting back into the mix, so good for him.
Yeah.
Next riser, we move to the light heavyweight division, where Khalil Rountree goes from number 23 to number 19. As we said, a little bit of a close win for him, but he keeps the climb going. I'm guessing he's going to get a ranked fighter now, and we'll see if he can make an even bigger jump in his next one. The last one, in terms of the risers, is the biggest riser for me of the night. Roman Dolidze moves from number 41 in my middleweight rankings to number 16.
Wow.
Holy shit.
Huge jump. The guy was 4-1. He just didn't really have a name to hang his hat on. Now he gets it over Phil Hawes. In some other rankings, Phil Hawes is not really ranked as highly. He's number 17 in mine. The guy beat Nasruddin Imavov, which everyone seems to ignore, and they just rank him like 10 spots behind Imavov, which I don't really understand. So, because Phil Hawes is ranked highly in my ranks, Roman Dolidze is now ranked highly in my ranks as well. So he is number 16 in my middleweight rankings, and he's 5-1 at middleweight right now. To the fallers. First one, Tim Means takes a little bit of a tumble. Moves from number 24 to number 29 at welterweight. He's one of these guys who kind of always hangs around this area, picks up wins, picks up losses, moves a little bit. So he falls to number 29 at welterweight. And then the other is Dustin Jacoby. He had kind of crept up right to the edge of my rankings. He was number 16 in the light heavyweight ranks. Takes a tough loss to Khalil now, and moves down to number 20. Khalil is a guy who has some rough losses on his resume, which is why he's only at 19. So Jacoby's got to slot in below him, so he falls down to number 20 in my light heavyweight ranks. And that is it for this week.
Ooh, baby. Love it. Let's go, Khalil Rountree. All right. All right, boys, let us find out what's going on in the world of MMA outside of the cages with our next segment, Inside the MMA Sphere. Omar, let us know what's going on.
All right. Pretty slow as far as news is concerned, so we're just going to jump right into it. Juliana Pena will be making her debut as a desk analyst for UFC Fight Night 214. Which I should have gotten a goddamn clarification as to exactly which one that is, because who the hell knows? I don't know. But she'll be there probably this weekend, I'm going to assume. But anyway, Juliana Pena will now be joining, or I guess they're testing her out as a desk analyst. I know she's already been a commentator in a smaller organization. I can't remember exactly which one, but she's not new to this area of expertise, so it'll be interesting to see her step in with the UFC.
That's awesome. Good for her, man. I can't imagine maybe a better female to do color than her, to be quite honest. I think she's going to really shine in this role.
I don't think she's going to be color. I think she's going to be with like Karen, like you know how they do like the UFC talk like in between fights post and stuff.
Oh, okay.
I think that's what she's going to be doing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, for the record, I think she'd be great at doing color.
Yeah, I 100% agree. If I'm wrong, then I will let you guys know. I'm sure if you watch the fight, you'll fucking figure it out yourself. But, you know, that's what I think it is. Next on the list, Nate Diaz back in the news. Slaps another man in the face.
Did he really?
Yes, he did. Yeah. At the Jake Paul Anderson Silva card, I guess I
heard there was a tussle, but he actually like put hands on somebody?
It looked like he reached out and slapped this dude across the face. I will say at least Nate Diaz is not punching people in the face, because somehow that would be even worse.
Either way, man, the law does not apply to this guy. He just goes about committing like assaults.
Agreed. But these slaps seem way more disrespectful than they do like trying to hurt somebody.
Yeah, true.
He just wants you to know that he touched your face and fuck you. But yeah, apparently he slapped somebody in Jake Paul's crew backstage at the event. No real details have come out as to what was going on. But he got the man from the Ninja Turtles looking like a crazy person now too, because he rolls with Nate Diaz now, and he's out here screaming and shit, trying to get into street fights too now and stuff. Making Kino look crazy, man. I don't know what's going on there. All right, next on the list, Askar Askarov was in the news asking for his release from the UFC. Apparently, he has some medical issues that he has not disclosed specifically what they are, but as a result, he had one fight left on his contract. He wants to focus on his health before he does anything else, so he asked for the UFC to release him. They obliged, and so Askar Askarov is no longer with the UFC.
God, that sucks. He's like one of the best flyweights in the world.
I would imagine once he gets
with Brandon Marina.
Yeah, I would imagine once he gets his shit together, whatever it is, the UFC will kindly take him back. I just think that Askar doesn't want to be tied down. He doesn't want to have to hold up the division, et cetera, et cetera. And I think he wants to make whatever is going on his priority. So I don't blame him.
Yeah, it seems that way.
Dariush has spoken. He will not be waiting for a title shot. People will have their opinions on that decision, but he will not be waiting for a title shot. I am of the mindset that he should not wait for a title shot. Wow. I don't think people should be waiting for title shots like that. The landscape changes so often. Things happen so often. Fighters fall out of things so often. You've got to be in the forefront of people's mind for these kind of things. We've seen people get jumped time and time again waiting because they're waiting like a year, and you've got a performance that was much more recent maybe just as exciting, but that's the one that people remember. That's the guy they now want to see.
Yeah, man. I mean, that performance against Gamrot, man, that was maybe
Legendary.
the best Dariush we've seen, and I think far and away the best shape Dariush has ever been in.
Yeah, he looked fantastic. He looked absolutely fantastic. Like I said, that's about as good as it's going to get for asking for his title shot, in my opinion. But he does say that he has a couple of options in his opinion. He wants either the winner of Poirier and Chandler, Charles Oliveira, or Rafael Fiziev. Either one of those three are his choice for his next fight, which I don't hate any single one of those. So.
He's great, man. He's great.
All right, man, that's all we got as far as news is concerned. We're going to do a couple of fight announcements. And there was actually some movement in the roster of released fighters this week. So we're going to run down those really quick because there were some significant ones there. So first on the list, Ion Kunte-Laba versus Kennedy Nzechukwu. Oh, so Ion Kunte-Laba already has a fight. So Nzechukwu. He's been added to UFC Vegas 65 on November 19th. So I guess we can forget that Ion Kunte-Laba rematch I had just recently said. David Onama versus Jarno Aarons has been added to UFC Vegas 67 on January 14th. Terrence McKinney will be back against Ismail Bonfim. That's been added to UFC 283 on January 21st.
I don't even know who that is.
Same. They're also giving Tyson Pedro, I feel like, a relatively unknown person. Tyson Pedro versus Zhang Min Yang has been
How
added.
long are we doing this with Tyson Pedro? Like, I don't understand.
And added to UFC 284 at that. So a big stage with a smaller opponent.
I mean, it's his third fight back. Like, why? He already beat two of these type of dudes. We can't fucking throw him into a legit fight? I don't understand the slow roll.
And now we also have Parker Porter versus Justin Tafa added also to UFC's 284 event. 284 is going down in February in Perth, in Australia.
In Perth. It's going Dane in Perth. Sorry.
I don't think that's it. I don't think that's the accent.
Yeah, I don't think it is either.
Close.
I don't think that's it.
Bro. I think I was close, bro.
All right, that's all we got as far as fight announcements are concerned. We'll go through these list of removed fighters pretty quickly. Our boy, our one and only, Nick Maximoff. No longer with the UFC. Rough.
Yeah, tough way to go out on the injury, but I guess it's not shocking.
No, and it's not even like you could go, damn, he had an injury, but at least he looked good in his last two performances, because that's not true either.
Yeah.
So that's that. Misha Serkinov has also received his walking papers, which is quite unfortunate, but not surprising. Christoph Jacko has also been handed his walking papers as well. Magomed Mustafayev has also been given his walking papers. Charlie Ontiveros, at the request of Mark for sucking, has been removed from the UFC roster.
Sorry, Charlie. I didn't mean it, man. I didn't mean it.
Darian Weeks has also been removed. Cameron Van Camp and Jesse Ronson to round it out. And that is all we have for you this week in the Sphere.
Yeah, the Magomed Mustafayev one sucks because he's so good. I mean, this is a guy that beat Rafael Fiziev not that long ago. But something's always going wrong. And it's not even always him. Sometimes it's him. Sometimes it's his opponent. He just never makes it to the cage. So I don't know why they actually decided to release him. I wonder if there's something behind the scenes that we're not quite sure of. But like if he turns up in Bellator and he's fighting for the Bellator title, it's not going to be even remotely shocking.
Yeah, it looks like they removed Alir Latifi as well from the roster, but I think that has to do with his recent USADA nonsense.
Yeah, people said it was because of that, yeah.
Yeah, because Bobby Green also got removed, but that was also because he recently got suspended.
Yep.
So they remove people for more than just them having been released, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But that's what we got.
Yep.
Oh, baby, oh, baby. All right, boys, with that being said, let's keep rolling now into the second half of this episode. Our preview, looking ahead to this weekend of UFC Fight Night, Rodriguez versus Lemos. So, This Saturday, November 5th, at the UFC Apex in Las Vegas, a high-profile women's strawweight fight. Marina Rodriguez is taking on Amanda Lemos. It's going to be fireworks, man. It's going to be a great stand-up fight at women's strawweight. Before that, and before we get to, I believe we're doing all 5 of the main card fights. Any fights or fighters that you guys want to spotlight for our listeners and viewers to check out this weekend?
Yeah, Omar, you want to go first?
I mean, honestly, man, the only one I really have is Miranda Maverick. I still have high hopes for Miranda Maverick. I think she has ability. I think she can work her way up to being really, really good. We just need to see her actually pull it off. So I'm hoping for a good win from her. The odds right now for that fight, at least on the UFC website, are fucking crazy.
Yeah, super wide. Super wide.
She's
before in Invicta, and Maverick steamrolled her as well. So
I don't know if you can pull up where you get your odds from, Mark, but on the UFC's website, they have her at a minus 600.
Wow.
And Shayna Young is at a plus 450, which is...
I believe that's what I saw her at as well, right around there. Let me see. Maverick, minus 600. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
That's pretty big.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I'll just grab one of them.
Yeah, sure.
Which is Jake Hadley versus Carlos Candelario. Jake Hadley is a guy who, this is going to be his second UFC fight. He debuted with a lot of hype behind him. He was a fighter that people were pretty excited about, and he kind of got shut down in his debut by Alan Nascimento, which wasn't so expected. So, who knows how much of it was the debut getting to him or whatnot, but he's definitely a guy who came into the UFC with some buzz. He gets Carlos Candelario here, who you would think is a guy he should beat. I think Hadley's like a 2-1 favorite last I looked. So I'll be paying attention to him and seeing if he can kind of show why he came in with the hype that he did.
Some of the odds here are super interesting, to be honest, because some of them are all in the 200s, plus or minus. So Jake Hadley, they have him at a minus 255, and they have Candelario at a plus 215.
Yeah, so I said 2-1, 2.5 to 1. I was close.
Super interesting.
Yeah, man. All right, let's get into this. The main card of UFC Fight Night Rodriguez versus Lemos is opening up with an exciting lightweight bout between Grant Dawson and Mark Madsen. So we have Dawson, KGD, the 28-year-old out of Nebraska. He is 18-1 as a professional with 1 draw, 12 submission victories. So he is a big submission threat. He's coming off of a victory against Jared Gordon, my buddy Jared Gordon, who he defeated by submission via a rear naked choke this past April. He's on quite a streak as well, is Grant Dawson. Mark Madsen, of course, is on quite the streak as well, that being his entire pro career. He is 12-0 as a pro, is the 38-year-old out of Denmark. Most recently, back in April of this year, he defeated Vince from Hell Pichel by UD. Mark, give it to us. What is your assessment and pick of this very exciting lightweight bout between Madsen and Dawson?
Yeah, so the odds here are actually wider than I expected. I thought this would be fairly tight, and Grant Dawson is actually minus 225. Mark Madsen is plus 180 as the dog. This is a great matchup. I believe, let me just check this before I say it. Yeah, I do have them literally ranked 28 and 29 in my rankings, so they're right next to each other. But yeah, now that Mark Madsen has hit this level, I will continually pick against him until I am right. I've said it before on this show. I just, I saw it when it was against the lower level guys. I don't see it now. I thought Vince Pichel would beat him. He kind of had a chance. A couple things went wrong at a couple points, and it got away from him. So I was wrong there, but I'm going to pick against Madsen again. Dawson is not quite as dynamic as I want a guy to be to definitely beat Mark Madsen. Like, I wish his striking was a little bit more dangerous just because Madsen is a bit weaker in that area, but I'm still going to roll with Dawson. Of course, Madsen's a super high-level wrestler, but Grant Dawson is a hell of a grappler. He's really tricky. He will get his hooks in you from any and all angles. He's real tough to control, and I think he could give Mark Madsen problems. He has sometimes had cardio issues, but but I wouldn't exactly call Mark Madsen any cardio monster either, so I'm kind of less worried about the cardio issues of Dawson. And he did overcome them in his last fight against Jared Gordon, so that was good to see. So it could be close, but I'm going to roll with Grant Dawson, UD.
Omar, give it to us.
Yeah, I didn't care for that Vince Pichel fight personally. I thought Mark Madsen did. I don't rank Vince Pichel super high as far as, you know, what a win against him means. It's not really trying to shit on Vince Pichel. It's just there hasn't been a lot of accomplishment to take away from that kind of win in the first place. Vince Pichel is a tough guy for sure. But as far as technique and understanding what that means to fight people above him, not really much to take away from that fight for me. With that being said, I hated his striking in that fight. I absolutely loathed it. Every bit of it. His wrestling, I think, is his equalizer. I think it's what he goes to get any fight where he needs it to be, and he can control and kind of win from there, burn out the clock, and et cetera, et cetera. But I absolutely hate his striking. I don't know if he's made any changes to then. I pray that he has, but it's one of those things where in my head I don't feel like he should be winning some of the fights that he's winning, but that wrestling is just it's next level shit.
That's why I never want to pick him.
And it's never something that seemingly people can avoid or take advantage of as far as his wrestling is concerned. With that being said, I totally could see Marco Madsen winning this fight, completely bloodied, beaten to hell, but yet having controlled the guy for 3 rounds. I totally could see that being a thing. I'm going to go with Grant Dawson because I think Grant Dawson has the submission acumen to find something from down there because he's not a conventional type of submission artist. He's not going to be looking for the things that I feel like the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guys tend to look for. I think he's a little bit more opportunistic and he'll look for a lot more unorthodox openings from the ground, especially with a guy as strong as Mark Madsen. So I'm going to go with Grant Dawson. I'm hoping he gets a submission round 3. But again, if you see Mark Madsen smiling up or standing up, smiling and blood covered on his face from all the cuts he has from getting fucked up, I also not going to be surprised.
I will go the opposite way as you guys. I pretty much I couldn't say it better than the way you said it, Omar. I can see I'm seeing Mark Madsen getting his hand raised, kind of bloodied and beat up, but having used his wrestling effectively enough over the course of 15 minutes. And I think that he, in being a silver medalist in the Olympics as a wrestler, his wrestling is going to be able to avoid getting submitted by Grant Dawson, who I love. And I love his submission game. You know, a guy who 2/3 of his victories have come by way of submission. That being said, for this fight, I'm going to go with the Olympian. I'm going to say he's going to stay away from the submission, and he's going to pretty much limp to a unanimous decision victory. And he's probably, I'll say this too, he might be the one who looks worse when his hand is raised by the referee.
Oh, of that I have no doubt.
Yeah.
I'm hoping we're leaving this one talking about how fluid Grant Dawson looked. That's what I need on the ground.
Yes.
Just moving in ways that Madsen is not used to, and threatening in ways that Madsen is not used to.
Mark, did you say Dawson UD or Dawson finish?
Yeah, I said Dawson UD.
So did you, Omar, right?
No, I don't think Dawson can beat him by points. That's the one thing I don't think he can do.
Sub.
Submission round 3.
Okay, I'm writing it down this time. I always want to write it down. I always forget. Okay.
We used to play this game for points back in the day.
I know, dude. Sometimes I think about that before we started a show. For those who don't know, nobody knows.
We should do it for points.
We should bring it back. Yeah. We should bring it back and like publish it or something like that. So you guys, our audience, you guys don't know, before we started the show, because we've been the 3 of us have been talking MMA since I don't even know how long, like
2015
maybe sooner.
Maybe. I know I got back to New York in 2013, and that's when I started working at Apple when we met. So maybe like 2014,
maybe 14 or 15, somewhere in there.
That sounds right to me. Something in there, yeah.
Yeah.
So we've gone through a few
Almost
different
10
phases.
years.
And one of our phases was I would make an Apple numbers spreadsheet and share it with the two of them, and for every event, and we would all pick we would all pick up the fights, and we had a scoring system, and it was super fun. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. I loved it. But yet somewhere somebody's going, fucking nerds.
I still track all my picks right now.
Do you really? Wow.
I have my record for main card and for full card.
Wow.
Year by year in an Excel document.
Oh my God.
What's your record? Do you know your record?
For this, I just referenced it in a comment, actually. One of these dudes who was fucking calling me a clown in the comments who said my pseudo-analysis. So I said my pseudo-analysis has me picking has me picking fights at a 2/3 clip, so I'll take it.
Wow. Good for you.
Yeah, I think, fuck, where is this fucking document? Here we go. This year, I have to do math. I didn't update it after the last fight. I'm on a
fucking
different computer,
math.
so it's not, we can't do this right now. We're holding up the show. But it's like, before the last fight, I think I was at a 66%
Wow.
clip of
That's cool.
of overall. I think that was not main card. I think main card was slightly below that, like 63 or something.
Mark really is like Matthew McConaughey in that goddamn betting movie.
What movie?
Two for the Money, it's called. If you haven't seen it, watch that movie, and you tell me if that shit is not Mark in a nutshell.
Mark is.
This is the
big into
YouTube
tracking.
section, the timestamp section, that is going to be called Mark Madsen versus Grant Dawson, and people are going to be like, "What the fuck are they talking about right now?"
All right. New section. Moving on. A flyweight bout between Tagir Ulanbekov versus Nate Maness. So Ulanbekov, the 31-year-old out of Dagestan, Russia. He is 13-2 as a pro. 1 knockout, 6 subs, 6 decisions. He has never been finished. His 2 losses have come by way of decision. And one of the 2 losses is his most recent fight. He's coming off of a loss at the hands of Tim Elliott back in March of this year at UFC 272. Standing across from him in the octagon this Saturday night will be Nate Maness, Nate Mayhem Maness, the 31-year-old also fighting out of Kentucky. Maness is 14-2 as a pro, 5 knockouts, 3 subs, 6 decisions, and he is also coming off of a loss at the hands of Omar Nurmagomedov back in June of this past summer. So both of these flyweights are looking to get back into the win column. Omar, let me throw it over to you this time first. Give us your assessment and ultimately your pick of Ulanbekov versus Maness.
So I'm a fan of Maness. I actually find his fight styles to be pretty entertaining. I think his loss against Umar Nurmagomedov is one of those that's going to happen kind of losses. Umar is on a tear right now. Umar is right now the next hot thing. He's so hot right now. Like, you know what I mean? The next Zoolander thing right now. So I don't really give him too much shit for that loss. I think Maness has what it takes to beat Ulanbekov. I think Ulanbekov is good, but I don't think he's particularly next level in my opinion. And I think there are opportunities for Maness to win that fight. So I'm going to go with Maness by unanimous decision.
Mark?
So I'm in the same boat. I don't know if I'm going to regret this because Ulanbekov is minus 220 as the favorite. Nate Maness is plus 175 underdog. But I'm intrigued by this flyweight drop for Nate Maness. He looked good up at bantamweight. He showed some signs. He's a scrapper. As you guys said, yes, Umar ran him over, but it's Umar. Things like that are going to happen. The skills are still there. He's 3 inches taller than Tagir. He's got a 2-inch reach advantage. And Ulanbekov is good. He's talented. He's just never wowed me. I don't know that he blends his game so well moment to moment. I feel like he lets stretches of the fight get away from him. He wasn't a fight that some people scored from against Tim Elliott. So if you're beating Tim Elliott, I guess you are pretty good. But I don't know. I think I'm going to go Maness here. I'm sure there's a world where Ulanbekov is able to land a bunch of takedowns and win it off control. But assuming the weight cut goes okay for Nate Maness, obviously throw the pick out the window if he looks like shit on the scale cutting down to 125. But assuming the weight cut goes okay, I think he can stuff enough takedowns and hurt Tagir on the feet a bit and take a decision. So I'll go Nate.
Yeah, he is going to tower over Ulanbekov at 5'10". So Ulanbekov is listed at 5'6".
Oh, I saw 5'7". That's even.
Oh, really? Oh, interesting. I'm looking at Sure Dog.
Yeah. Okay.
I just want to note, Mark, that this is the second week in a row that you have said of a Dagestani fighter that he is very good, but he just doesn't do it for you.
He doesn't. But that's different context. I said that Islam doesn't necessarily entertain me. Not that I didn't think he was good. That's not that fucking silly. Tagir, I don't think is all that great.
I compared Islam to Floyd Mayweather in the sense that I don't find Floyd Mayweather particularly entertaining, but am I really going to fucking sit up here and say he's not one of the greatest boxers and not the greatest defensive boxer in the entire world? No, because It's fucking dumb.
That's the exact Islam take that I was trying to give, but how dare I?
Yeah, I'm sorry I brought it up because we were just inviting more comments defending. Right. It's okay. It's all good. Bring them on. Okay, let's move on. Unless, did I miss somebody?
No, I
myself.
Oh,
I'm going to go with Ulanbekov. I think these guys are pretty evenly matched. I mean, they're the same age, very similar records. But I'm just going to go with the Dagestani fighter. I like his skill set, and I see him rolling to a decision victory over Maness. And I anticipate him not looking great cutting to 125, so we'll see. We'll see him on scale.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. Up to the heavyweights, man. This big-time main card heavyweight bout between Chase Sherman and Josh Parisian. So Sherman, the 32-year-old out of Mississippi, he is 16-10 as a pro. He's 6'4", weighs in usually around in the 250 range. Of his 16 victories, 15 have come by way of knockout or TKO. Of his 10 defeats, he has been knocked out 4 times and subbed twice. He is coming off of a win over Jared Vandera back in July. Josh Parisian, the 33-year-old out of Brighton, Michigan, my neck of the woods. He is a literal giant, tipping the scales at 265. He probably has to cut a little bit of weight to make the heavyweight limit. He's also 6'4". Parisian 15-5 as a pro with 11 knockouts on his record and 2 subs. He is coming off of a win as well over the Frenchman Alain Badeau back in June of this year. Mark, let me throw it over to you this time. Give us your take on this hot heavyweight contest between Sherman and Parisian.
Yeah, any wrestling fans listening will get this reference, but the UFC cannot resist having 2 big, meaty men slapping meat on a main card. They don't care how low level the fight is. It's going on the fucking main card. Sherman's the favorite here. He's minus 125. Parisian is plus 105. Both these guys have so many holes. If I'm being honest, I think this is just one of those who falls down first fights, and I think I trust Sherman more to find the kill shot by 51% to 49%. I'm not even going to bother analyzing this fight so much more than that. I could see it looking fairly similar to Sherman's last fight against Jared Vandera, where he was kind of behind, lands a couple big ones, fight shifts. So I'll say maybe Parisian's landing more early, and then Sherman lands something big late, and I'll say he gets out of there with a round 3 TKO. But it's a coin toss of all coin tosses. I would not bet it.
Okay. Omar.
I can't tell you how much I don't care about this fight.
Omar took what I said and fucking cranked it up another notch.
I can't express to you how much I could give a shit. I think my main reason why this fight doesn't do it for me is because both of these men fight super sloppy. I don't care to watch 2 men ragdoll each other, essentially, trying to strike at each other. They're both not technically sound as far as I'm concerned. I haven't really seen much from Josh Parisian. I've seen, obviously, more fights with Chase Sherman in them, but even the performances Sherman has had has been... They're tough. They're both tough guys, definitely, but they're just not great to watch. Like, I don't take anything away from these fights. They're sloppy bangers. It is what it is. It's not my cup of tea. There's tons of people in the audience that I'm sure will, woo! They'll love it, but it's just not my cup of tea, man. I guess if I have to pick one, I'll go with Chase Sherman by third round knockout.
Yeah, I mean, for what it is, it's really just like it's in a spot on the card that plummets its value as a fight. Like, if this was on the undercard, I'd be like, fun. These two moderately like two moderately athletic giants are gonna scrap. Being like in the fight right before the co-main, you're like, what the hell?
Yeah.
That being said, looking at this fight in and of itself, I'm gonna go with Josh Parisian, just because it's a coin flip. I mean, Chase Sherman on paper, he loses a lot. I mean, before his last fight against Vandera, he dropped 4 in a row. I mean, on paper, Chase Sherman looks like a heavyweight who's like, he's got good size, he seems athletic, but he just loses. And I'm going to go with the size and the power of the bigger man, slightly bigger man, Josh Parisian, and I don't know. That's it. We'll see.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. Co-main event time. A welterweight bout of real consequence.
Back in the saddle.
Yeah, we're back in the saddle. Between Neil Magny and Daniel Rodriguez. Here we go. Neil Magny, the Haitian sensation. I always forget that Neil Magny is a New York guy. He's fighting out of Brooklyn, New York. The 35-year-old out of Brooklyn. He is 26-9 as a pro. Let's go. 6'3". Nice height as a welterweight. Of his 26 victories, 7 have come by knockout, 3 submissions to add to that. He is coming off of a loss against the rising Shavkat Rakhmonov by submission back in June. And then we look at Daniel D-Rod Rodriguez, the 35-year-old fighting out of California. He is 17-2 as a professional with 8 knockouts and 4 subs on his record. He is coming into this weekend riding a 4-fight win streak. Most recently, this past September, very recent, he earned that split decision victory over Li Jingliang. So, Omar, let me toss it over to you first this time. Give us your take and your assessment and ultimately your pick of this big-time welterweight bout.
So, I'm a big fan of both. We've talked about Neil Magny in the past sort of being, the prime gatekeeper, sort of the gatekeeper we all know and love and respect. Losing to Shavkat is probably another one of those guys where that's going to happen. Rakhmonov has basically murdered every single person that he's come into contact with in the UFC. If you look at his record, even before the UFC, he's murdered people that are currently in the UFC as well. So I'm not going to give Neil Magny shit for losing to a guy who seemingly is probably going to murder everybody in that division or close to it. Daniel Rodriguez, on the other hand, is a good fighter. I've been a fan of his. You already know, though, hashtag justice for my man Li Jingliang.
I knew it was coming.
You already know. Yep. You already know. And so for that reason, I'm going with my man's Neil Magny by unanimous decision.
Okay. Mark, lay it on us.
Yeah, this is a tough one, and the betting odds indicate that. Neil Magny is minus 120. D-Rod is minus 105, so you're not even getting plus money on anybody here. As usual for Magny, big reach advantage, 6 inches, plus 2 inches of height. And against a boxer like D-Rod, that's going to be helpful because you know what D-Rod is looking to do. So at least Magny can try to keep that space with the reach. this is one of those fights where the momentum is going in opposite ways. D-Rod is on a hell of a run up right now. Magny is maybe showing some signs a little bit of aging and wear and tear. So it feels like I should be saying D-Rod, but I don't think I'm going to. Flip-flopped on this a little bit, but I just think the well-rounded game of Magny could be enough to sneak this out on the cards. He could certainly find himself in trouble at points. I'm sure there will be some times where D-Rod lands clean. He always does. He's always able to find some flush shot in there. But I just think the veteran IQ of Magny, the ability to wrestle, the length, just all of it, I think it can help him turn the tide if needed. I think that he has been in there enough, and that he has a bit more tools than D-Rod does, and I would think he can bring those to bear and kind of turn the fight where he needs to if it's not going his way. So I'll say that Magny can do just enough to get 2 rounds on at least 2 of these cards. I think it's going to be close. Debating if I even want to say split. Yeah, I will say Neil Magny split decision.
You know what, Mark? That's probably the right pick, but I'm not going to make it with you this time because I'm a fan of Daniel Rodriguez. I really am. I've been impressed with him and his hands and his striking since he's been coming up, and I want him to win, and I'm going to go with him. I'm going to say that Daniel Rodriguez. I'm going to say that Daniel Rodriguez hurts Neil Magny. And I'm going to say that he gets him out of there in the second round. That's how this fight goes. Neil Magny, he's only been finished with strikes twice. And he's been subbed 5 times. But I think I'm really hopeful. I really feel like this is one of those stupid-ass decisions or picks that I make. But I'm really hoping that this is a big breakthrough moment for Rodriguez here. And he's going to keep rolling. I mean, he's 17-2, man. He's good.
Yeah,
I'll tell you this, man. If anybody wants to know what a proper jab looks like, and a quote-unquote educated jab looks like, watch Neil Magny. That man has one of the best jabs I've ever seen. I love the way he uses it. He pops it out right back to his face. I keep showing this to Francesca because now that we're kind of doing these things together, there's like tendencies I'm trying to get her not to start. And one of them is the jab, and then it goes down. And then you kind of circle your ass back up. It's like it's jab and it comes back. You know what I mean? It comes right back to your face. And it's the same with the cross and all that other stuff. Yep. But Neil Magny has one of the best and tightest jabs in the UFC. And with his length, I mean, it's beautiful to watch.
Yeah, man. Hey, sometimes I make smart decisions with my picks, and sometimes I make emotional decisions. And, on that note, real quick, going back to the whole comment section thing, sometimes... Yeah, I'm still.
I was waiting. I was waiting for you to say something about it. Like, wait a minute, somebody called me something, motherfuckers.
Folks, just so everybody knows, the three of us, we are not journalists, and we are not bound by any standard of objectivity. We do not have to be objective or impartial or any of that. Okay, that's it. So sometimes we are always like honest and open over like who we love and who we root for. So that's it. Okay.
Yeah, I 100% agree. The thing you got to keep in mind is we tell you when we're going to be biased because we know we're fucking fans. I've been watching UFC since 2009, which now seems like a stupid ass amount of time. I don't know how long you guys have probably been watching it, maybe a little bit longer or just as long as I have. But we're fans first and foremost. This is not. Ain't none of us getting paid here. We are paying to do this.
That's right.
There are bills involved in putting this shit up the way that we put it up.
Yeah.
So we love doing this. We love fights. We love all of this stuff. So we do it out of sheer entertainment of us. We are just asking for you guys to join the ride. And if you don't want to, get the fuck off.
And if you don't know, I mean, first of all, I am a professional ring announcer in combat sports, and I have been paid good money to ring announce. I'm a ring announcer for Anthony Pettis Fighting Championship. I've been an announcer for XFC. For a few others, I've been on Fox Sports. So, like, fucking get at me. That being said, I got into ring announcing because I'm a huge MMA fan. Mark, if he wanted to, he could be an amazing elite journalist if he really wanted to. And he also could be probably the best matchmaker in UFC history. Omar, if he really wanted to, he could fight. And he could be an amazing referee. So that's all I'll say about that. Okay, let's move on. Main event time. Here we go. Women's strawweight bout between Marina Rodriguez and Amanda Lemos. Here we go. Women's strawweight. What?
Now that we're cheering for you, that was a lovely sentiment, a lovely fuck you to all those people.
I wrote a comment that was pretty much exactly what you just said out loud. I don't know if you guys saw it.
Oh, I did not.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, we have Marina Rodriguez, the 35-year-old out of, I don't know how to say this, Bagué, or I don't know how to say this town, out of Rio Grande do Sul in Brazil. She's riding a 4-fight win streak. She is 16-1 overall as a pro with 2 draws. Of her 16 wins, 6 have come by way of knockout or TKO, and add 1 submission to that. Most recently, she got the split decision victory over Xiaonan Yan. And then on the other side, we have Amanda Lemos, also out of Brazil, of course, also 35. She is 12-2 with 1 draw as a pro, 7 knockouts, 3 subs added to that. She's only been knocked out once. She's only been submitted once. Just hopping back over to the other side, Rodriguez has never been knocked out, has never been submitted. That's important to note. Lemos herself, she is also coming off of a win against Michelle Waterson back in July of this year, which was getting back in the win column after a loss against Jessica Andrade. Before that, she had a 5-fight win streak. I love this fight right now, guys. This is great matchmaking. Both of these ladies have been on a tear. Same age, similar records. Mark, let me throw it over to you first this time. Give us your assessment of this matchup between Rodriguez and Lemos, and then your pick.
Yeah, this is a quality match for sure. Marina is the favorite. She's minus 220. Amanda Lemos is plus 175. I do believe that Marina deserved a bigger fight than this. Unfortunately, the way it kind of shook out with who was available. Instead, she has to fight down against an absolute killer in Amanda Lemos. So it's definitely a big risk for Marina when she has kind of hit an elite point in this division. So props to her for taking it. And honestly, it's a really interesting fight because she's going to have to lean on her volume, as she always does, because any one shot from Lemos could be a game changer. Even if it's not a fight that necessarily drops her, just they're big shots in the judges' eyes. So Marina's going to have that volume going. Additionally, she is so good in close with her elbows and her knees and those type of weapons. But she's going to have to really walk a dangerous line with the range due to the power that's going to be coming back at her from Lemos. Does she really want to get in that tight to use those knees and elbows like she does? Plus, Amanda could absolutely look to grapple her, as that's been shown a few times as a weak spot for Marina. So does she want to get close enough for that to be an option for Lemos? So it's going to be interesting what range Marina tries to play this fight at. She may just try to stay out throughout and kind of pick apart Lemos and keep a pace and see if Lemos can get tired. And that's what Lemos is going to have to show, is that she can keep that pace for 25 minutes because she has not done that thus far. She has shown signs of tiring in third rounds of fights, let alone fourth and fifths, as we could see here. So that's what she's going to have to prove. But for me, there's no way I'm not picking Marina Rodriguez right now. I love the way she looks lately. I really believe in her whole game. Lemos is a killer. Like I said, I'm sure there'll be blitzes. I'm sure there'll be moments. But I trust Marina to survive them. She's hard to hurt. I trust her ability to mix it up, to strike responsibly, and to keep that pace. And I trust her cardio more as this thing gets into round 4 and 5. And if I'm being honest, I'm almost kind of locking up those 2 rounds in my head for Marina Rodriguez. Unless Lemos' cardio has changed drastically, I think the later rounds will be Marina's. And if that's the case, she really only would need one of the first 3 to get out of there with a W. So I will take Marina Rodriguez. I'll say a 48-47 UD. I could even see a finish late if Lemos is truly tiring and Marina is able to turn it up. But I'll stick with a UD win for Marina Rodriguez.
Very nice. Omar, it's your turn.
Yeah, so just so you know, Mike, it's Bagué. I actually looked it up.
Oh, very nice.
Baje Rio Grande do Sul. But I also am really into Rodriguez's game, her whole complete game. I think she's a very, very technical fighter. I think she's one of the more technical fighters in that division, especially at the elite level. And I think she uses her range and her movement, which she's going to have to rely on, not just the volume, like Mark said, but the movement as well. She's going to have a lot of lateral movement and lateral movement to the proper side. Amanda Lemos is one of those girls, you move to the wrong side, you're going to run into a hook that she's throwing. So Rodriguez is going to have to do a lot of moving properly in that fight. She won't be able to just move backwards because Lemos will push the pace and she will come forward and eventually trap her against the cage if she allows her, if she does simply move back. So she's going to have to cut a lot of angles, and we should see a lot of that happening throughout the fight. I do think she's more technical than Lemos. I think Lemos is very, very dangerous. Lemos is basically like a grenade with the pin almost all the way out. And if you make one wrong move, that pin comes out and you're done. Rodriguez, I think, though, is a lot more consistent and I think a lot more reliable over 5 rounds. I also don't think that she puts herself in dangerous positions in most of her fights to be in a dangerous position against Amanda Lemos. Amanda Lemos will have to work hard, I think, to get Rodriguez into a dangerous position, and I don't see that happening. I just don't see that happening in that fight at all, frankly. Everybody has a chance to get caught for sure, but I think Rodriguez does a good job of making sure that doesn't happen to her, and it doesn't, and that's not an accident. So I'm going to go with Rodriguez by unanimous decision. I don't think that she finishes Lemos. If there's one thing that might be a counter on Rodriguez's game is that she doesn't necessarily push for finishes. She's definitely one person to allow the fight to come to her, does what she needs to do to win the fight and push the pressure as much as possible, but she never necessarily goes overboard or, again, puts herself in a position where she might get hurt herself, which would be blitzing somebody, potentially hurt. So I don't see her finishing, but I do see her winning a pretty handy decision.
Nice. I think we are unanimous. I'm a big Marina Rodriguez fan. I'm a big fan of her striking prowess, and I think she's going to put it on Lemos. I think she's going to kind of pick her apart. So I see Marina Rodriguez cruising to a unanimous decision victory over Amanda Lemos this Saturday night. And there you have it, boys. We picked up the main card of UFC Fight Night, Rodriguez versus Lemos, and now let's pivot into a little bit of trivia. Here we go. Related to this Saturday night's main event, Marina Rodriguez won a split decision against Zhao Nanyan in her most recent fight, which means, in a split decision, that she lost on one of the judges' scorecards. Marina Rodriguez lost a split decision, which was her only loss of her career, against Carla Esparza. And as a split decision, that means that she actually won on one of the judges' scorecards. There is only one woman against whom Marina Rodriguez did not win on any of the judges' scorecards. Who was that woman? Was it A, Cynthia Calvillo, B, Tesha Torres, C, Michelle Watterson, or D, Randa Marcos?
Well, there's only 2 options here.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at too. It's either, the Marcos one, and the Cynthia one were draws.
They're both draws, so it's
very
just
good, both of you. Very good.
Which one was not a unanimous draw is the question.
I'll make it even harder for you. They were both majority draws.
They were both majority draws. So on one of them she won the other card, and on one of them she lost the other card.
That is correct. Wow, you guys are good.
Both majority draws. That's interesting.
You guys are both excellent. Wow.
Yeah, I know she beat Tisha, so that's definitely out of the race. I don't even remember what the other one was now, the fourth one.
Watterson.
I feel like they both. So Cynthia's was at the end of the fight. Cynthia drubbed her in round 3. And Randa drubbed her in round 1, and I feel like they were both drubbings. So how could she have got one of those fights scored for her?
I'm going to go with Cynthia, because Cynthia's gotten
What are we guessing? Which one she had a lost card on?
Correct. This is the only fighter against whom she did not win on any of the judges' scorecards.
Meaning they gave one of the other rounds to someone else.
Right, because even in her only loss against Esparza, she won on one of the judges' scorecards.
I'll say Marcos.
The answer is D, Randa Marcos. It was a majority draw in which 2 of the judges had it 28-28, and 1 judge scored it for Marcos. Calvillo, 2 were a draw, and 1 was for Marina. Wow, good job, guys.
Yeah, I did that
Good
backwards.
question. I like that question.
I did that backwards. I knew I thought she beat Cynthia, so I thought it was who she had winning on the scorecard, not who she lost to. So I fucked that up.
Sorry.
No, that was my fault. You said it exactly what you were supposed to.
Funky thing to try to describe.
I actually have a question for you guys.
Oh.
I'm the only one who never comes with trivia. I got to come on.
Every now and again, I just find something that I think is super interesting. And so we talked about Magny being our respected and legendary gatekeeper of the welterweight division. Some people I feel like who've watched MMA now for just a little bit may not even know where Neil Magny came from, how Neil Magny started, and where all of this emerged from. And some people may not realize he's a tough Ultimate Fighter winner. Did he win? Actually,
no, he didn't win.
He didn't win.
Right.
No,
Pause.
Yeah, he didn't win.
But he did come from the Ultimate Fighter, and then I believe he won his debut fight when he came into the UFC.
Yes.
So for those of you who don't know, do you remember who his first UFC fight was against, and what event it was?
I do not know. I do not remember
What
at all.
event it was? Jeez. I'll guess it was like a fight for the troops event, since that was Magny's kind of deal originally.
That was
Was it
Magny's
like
deal
was
for
it
a
like
minute.
Robbie
I
Lawler or
right?
somebody?
No. His fight for the troops was third, and that was Seth Baczynski. Deep cuts for
I
those of
remember
you
that
who don't
fight,
know
yeah.
Seth Baczynski.
I used to like Seth Baczynski. He had a fun game.
So, yeah, same. Actually, I think
I mean, obviously Magny fought somebody from the show in his debut, but it's just
so long ago.
these freaking names and faces from these shows. It's too hard to remember. I mean, when you say it, I'll know who it is, but I ain't gonna get it.
John Manley.
Ah, yeah.
UFC 157, August 2013.
John Manley. What happened for the rest of his career? He didn't
Dude
last
doesn't
too
even
long
have
in
a
the
Wikipedia
UFC.
page.
Really?
Nothing.
Ah, he bounced around for quite a while. Where are we? Oh, that was it? He only had the one UFC fight. He was gone after that.
Oh.
He was up and down. He won a couple in Bellator to finish his career out. But yeah, up and down.
All right. That's all I had.
Okay. That's it. That's the show.
All right,
Boom.
boys, we did it.
We've done it again. If you're still watching, thanks. Subscribe to our channel. Hit the bell. All the things. Cool. Enjoy the fights this weekend. Fun little fight night card. Fun main event. Fun co-main. Let's go. Any parting shots, boys?
Yeah. If you guys watch this episode and want to start some shit, tag Mark.
Tag Mark.
I'm tired. I answered too many comments this week. Be quiet this week, maybe. Nah, I'm ready to go.
Boys. Enjoy the fights this weekend. We'll see you next week, folks.
All right. Peace.